Early in the morning on Friday, June 13th, Israel launched what they called Operation Rising Lion, striking dozens of Iranian and missile facilities. It's interesting to note that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had visited the Western Wall the night before, slipping a little note into the crevices of the rocks there with a passage from Numbers 23:24, which says, "Look, a nation like a lioness will rise up, and like a lion, he raises himself." So what is this war all about? Well, Israel is seeking to stop Iran from becoming a nuclear power. For a long time now, the nation of Iran that funds terrorism all around the world has been enriching uranium to be used for nuclear weapons, even conceivably to give to their proxy terrorist groups like Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis. And this would have been a game changer. So Israel knew they had to do something. So they struck Iran, because the question is asked, why did Israel attack Iran? Well, that's not really what happened. This, frankly, was a defense tactic on Israel's part where they were targeting military and weapons sites. It's worth noting that these were pinpoint strategic strikes against nuclear scientists that were developing these weapons to kill many people and other military targets. Now, in response, Iran has been lobbing countless missiles into dense population centers in Israel. Coming back to that question, why did Israel start this war? Let's remember that this war, in effect, has been going on a long time, as Iran has been funding these terrorist groups with the intent of wiping Israel out. Listen, when a nation is developing a nuclear weapon, and they've openly stated their intention is to wipe Israel off the face of the map, one must take such a threat seriously. And let's not forget that Iran effectively started this when they attacked Israel on October 7th, with Hamas, their proxy organization, murdering 1,200 innocent men, women, and children in the Holy Land, and took many hostage as well. I was recently in Israel, and I spoke with one of the mothers of these hostages, and she's brokenhearted, praying for her son's return. But now with this uranium being enriched, Israel had to strike to defend herself. And frankly, they're doing something not only for their own self-preservation, but for the rest of the world. Now the question arises, does this conflict align with what the Bible says about the end times? Well, the answer is yes and no. The Bible clearly teaches that Israel will be regathered together in her land as a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. This is why it's so absurd to suggest that Israel are colonizing the land. Israel, they're the indigenous people to the land. God gave them this land 4,000 years ago, but God predicted that they would be scattered and regathered together in her land. And after this happens, according to Ezekiel 37 and 38, a large force from the north of Israel would attack her. And that force is identified as Magog. Now, many Bible scholars believe that Magog is modern Russia. That could very well be. I happen to be in agreement with that. But of this we're sure. One of the allies that marches with Magog is identified as Persia, which is the name of Iran. Iran changed their name from Persia to Iran in 1935. So we know that in the end times, Israel regathered together in her land, attacked by a large force, and one of the allies of that force is Persia, or modern day Iran. So is this the fulfillment of that? I would classify it as not the fulfillment of that, but more of a foreshadowing of that. In other words, it's going to happen eventually, but this is what we might call a labor pain. Remember, Jesus said when we get closer to his return, it would be like a woman giving birth, and her labor pains would get closer and closer together. So as we see the signs of the times, it's telling us that Jesus is coming. So before me is a stack of dominoes, and as you can see, they're pretty close to each other. Let's think of each one of these dominoes as an end times event, because once the first happens, the others will follow closely. So the next event in the prophetic calendar is the rapture of the church. It can happen at any time. This is that event when Christ comes for his people and we're caught up to meet the Lord in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. Shortly on the heels of that, we have this mysterious world figure emerge on the scene called the Antichrist. He'll look like the ultimate peacemaker, but in reality, is the ultimate troublemaker. This inaugurates the tribulation period that lasts for 7 years. In the middle of this tribulation period, Antichrist will have erected the Jewish temple and put an image of himself in the temple and command people to worship it. This is the event that Jesus speaks of in Matthew 24, called the abomination of desolation. It's the halfway point of the tribulation period. Then the tribulation period plays itself out to the end, culminating in the battle of Armageddon. Then Christ comes in the second coming, and then he establishes the millennial reign. So the first domino to fall is the rapture, and then the others follow after. Just like that. Now, here's the thing. The first domino has not fallen yet. That's why I say this is a foreshadowing. I think sometimes as Christians, we're a little too quick to jump the gun. We want to make sure that we're seeing things accurately. So it will happen. Eventually, Iran, along with Magog, will attack Israel, but we don't see that event necessarily happening at this moment. But Jesus said, when you see these things begin to happen, look up, for your redemption is drawing near. He did not say, when you see these things begin to happen, freak out because you're going to die. He said, look up. These are signs of the times. We're seeing more and more of them, and we need to be ready to meet the Lord. So what should we do in light of all of this? Well, number one, we should pray for peace in the Middle East. Pray that this conflict comes to a stop and they reach some kind of a negotiation. The Bible even tells us, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Secondly, we must reach out to our Jewish friends and tell them they're not alone. I'm happy to say that just days ago, Kathy and I were in Israel, and we were able to present, along with our friends at Samaritan's Purse and Franklin and Edward Graham, an armored ambulance to be used to save lives, both Jewish and Arab. But let your Jewish friends know they have a friend in the evangelical Christian. With the rise of anti-Semitism around the world, and especially on our college campuses, it's great for them to know that we're standing with them. And lastly, we need to just be ready to meet the Lord. He could come back at any moment. If Christ were to come back today, would you be ready to be caught up to meet him in the air? If not, get ready to meet the Lord. So look up, your redemption is drawing near.